Today, we're comparing two phones, the Samsung Galaxy S24 to the iPhone 16. Both of these phones retail for $799. And I feel like if you're looking at one, you owe yourself to look at the other because there might be a better deal where you live. And if the feature set is good enough for you, you could possibly save yourself some money. But these phones are very similar in a lot of ways. Even though technically they use different operating systems, at the end of the day, they both get the job done. And from a design standpoint, they look very similar. In fact, this orange or brown, whatever you want to call it, is gorgeous. Like, I love this two-tone finish. The back is frosted with like an orangey brownish tint. And then on the sides, it just gets super bright, giving it a two-tone finish. On the iPhone 16, this is one of the best blues I've ever seen on a phone. In fact, I wish the Pro models had this color because I absolutely love it. Design-wise, this one does have a 6.2-inch display compared to 6.1, but the Galaxy S24 is slightly smaller. In fact, it's a little bit lighter. Not by much, only by a few grams, but on paper, it is a smaller phone. The other thing to take into consideration is how it feels in your hand. They both feel great. And when I mention this, I am completely giving you the nitpick first-person perspective, okay? When I hold the Galaxy S24, the edges are a tiny bit sharper. It doesn't hurt, it's not annoying, but this is how it feels compared to the iPhone 16. The edges are slightly more round. It just feels a little softer in the hand. The front of the display, they look gorgeous on both phones. The bezels are very nice and thin. The big difference comes down to having Face ID on the iPhone. Yes, you can use Face Unlock with the Samsung device, but its most secure biometric is still the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, whereas with the iPhone, it's Face ID. I do like Dynamic Island. It's not a must-have, but it's kind of cool. You know, like whenever you order Uber Eats, you can see an update in the island, which doesn't force you to go into the app to find out exactly what's going on. But again, it's a nice have, but not a must-have. 12 megapixel camera on these devices are actually quite similar. You know, I do find the iPhone to be a slightly bit better. The colors are a little bit more deep, whereas the Galaxy device tends to over sharpen a little bit. But again, I'm really splitting hairs here. All right, now you're looking at the front-facing cameras on the iPhone 16 and the Samsung Galaxy S24. I'm out of breath because I just ran, but you guys let me know which one looks better and which one has the better microphones. The advantage to the Galaxy device is the display. Like, this display is gorgeous. It has a higher peak brightness. It's not as pixel dense as the iPhone. The iPhone definitely has a higher resolution, but it's really hard to notice that difference on a device this small. But the one thing that the S24 to me is just way better at is the high refresh rate. Like, I get it. Normal people probably won't know the difference, but I promise you, if they use the S24 then pick up the iPhone after, they will feel it. 120 hertz makes the phone feel faster. 60 hertz does not. Plus, on top of that, Android in general tends to speed up the animations. And even though technically the A18 inside of this iPhone is way faster than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, the Galaxy will always feel faster when you're using it because of that refresh rate. I also notice if you're watching videos on both of these phones, the Galaxy device tends to overexpose a lot of the videos you're watching, and it's not a bad thing. It looks really pleasing as everything does look brighter, whereas the iPhone tends to be a little bit more color accurate in the videos that you are watching. The good news though is if you don't like that overexposed look, punchy look, you can go into the settings and then tone down the colors, which is something you can really do on the Samsung, whereas on the iPhone, you're kind of stuck with whatever Apple defaults the colors to. Now, both phones obviously have two speakers. I mean, that's pretty standard these days, and the sound quality on both of these devices are really good. I'm gonna play a little sample, and you guys let me know which one sounds better. Now, we do have to talk about physical buttons because the Galaxy device is keeping things simple. You have your volume rocker and you have your power button. Obviously, you can bind the camera and other features to these buttons, but the iPhone has a lot more. You now have the action button, which you didn't have before, which will automatically launch into any application or shortcut you choose. And now there's a camera control button. I'm not going to beat around the bush about this camera control button. I personally forgot about it. Like, I never use it on my iPhone. Sometimes I'll click it just to open the camera, but most of the time I'm on the display to get the picture, to take the photo, to start the video. Personally, it's a nice have, but again, this is something that I feel like if you don't have it on your phone, you're not going to regret your decision. I promise you, you just won't. Maybe down the road when, there's a lot more AI features on the iPhone, it will start to make a lot more sense. But as of right now, this camera control button is basically a glorified button to open the camera. Now, I'm not going to get into the what's better, Android or iOS for the software experience. They both have their advantages. But this is what I will say for the average user. The iPhone looks great now. Like, the added customization with iOS 18 allows you to customize it a bit more. Like, I'm really happy with the way my Pro model looks after having the update to iOS 18. There's obviously still a bit more customization with Android, but with Galaxy devices, you just get a lot of features. Like, if you're an enthusiast, like, there's everything you can think about on this phone. Like, it's just in there somewhere in the menus, whereas iPhone tends to keep things a bit more simple. Now, battery life is better on the iPhone 16. Like, don't get me wrong, both of these phones will get you through the entire day. Unless you're a hardcore user, most of the day. They're fairly close, but it is better on the iPhone. Charging speeds are also very identical. Like, both of these devices can charge up to 25 watts. And then of course you have that 15-watt wireless charging. The benefit of the iPhone is that you do have more case options. Like, Samsung is definitely in second place. There's still tons, but iPhone cases, there's just a lot more to choose from, especially if you appreciate that MagSafe ecosystem. Now, if you're a gamer, both of these phones do get warm, but I do find the iPhone gets a bit more warm. Like, I was just doing a simple video test and then I put it through a Geekbench test and I found that the iPhone was definitely hotter than the Galaxy device. This just dissipates heat a little bit better. But the A18 is faster, and if you're a gamer and the games you want to play are supported in the Apple ecosystem, this A18 will last you longer because of its performance. It's just a way faster chip. Now, when it comes to the camera, you have more lenses with the S24. You have a 50 megapixel wide lens, 10 megapixel 3x telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. The iPhone has a 48 megapixel wide lens and a 12 megapixel ultra wide lens. If you want that telephoto lens to get a little bit closer, the Galaxy S24 is going to give it. You can punch into 2x using the main sensor on the iPhone, but it's not a dedicated telephoto camera. And at the end of the day, it does make a difference if you like getting closer to stuff and you want the image to look a little bit more clean. But the photo styles of both of these phones are slightly different. If Samsung's phones see a sky, it goes crazy. Like, every sky I shot on this Galaxy S24 was a vibrant blue, like oversaturated. It did not look like this in real life. It just went crazy. Now, you could argue it is ready for social media. It has those punchy colors and it's ready to upload. Whereas the iPhone, in comparison, might look a bit more dull to you because the sky actually looks like how the sky looked. Now, there's arguments for both sides, but at the end of the day, both of these phones are taking great pictures. Now, both of these phones have their own styles of filters. The Samsung has filters, the iPhone has these different modes and tones you can play with. I like the tones on the iPhone. I actually think they look really good. The Galaxy device looks okay when you play with them, but not nearly as good as what Apple is offering. I like the fact that you can be really granular with the tone and palette to see exactly how you want the photo to be. Personally, I'm a big fan of the amber mood. You just crank down that color to about -40 and the palette to about 10 or 12, and you have this very pleasing photo to look at. The area where things start to get different is nighttime photography. I do find the iPhone does a slightly better job under low light. They're pretty close, but the iPhone does a better job with showing what you're looking at. Samsung tends to sometimes get a bit blurry. Sometimes the photo itself, the colors are a little bit off. And there's other times where the image looked like an oil painting. The one area at night that the Galaxy excels is obviously using that telephoto lens. Like, I took a picture of the moon, and whether you want to call it AI or not, the Galaxy device gave me a very pleasing photo, whereas on the iPhone, it looks like the moon is a light shining at you, like a regular flashlight. In terms of 4K video, I think both devices look pretty close. It's just when you start to pixel peep a little bit, you can tell that the video on the Galaxy S24 looks a little over sharpened compared to the iPhones. So here's the bottom line. I can't tell you which phone to buy. You all have your own priority list of what features matter the most. I think if you're more of a tech enthusiast, you want to get really nitty gritty with the operating system, Android is obviously the better choice. You'll also get better deals with the Galaxy S24. Like, they have way more aggressive trade-in values than what any other company is offering. Plus, sometimes once you get to the cart, they offer you other deals on some of their items so you can stack them together. Whereas the iPhone, you just generally never get a deal. Like, there's never deals being had unless it's like a year away. The benefit of buying the iPhone, though, is later on. Like, if you ever decide to sell your phone, the resale value is going to be way better on the iPhone 16 compared to the Galaxy S24. So sure, you could be saving now, but you won't be saving later. So keep that in mind. Now, personally, and this is my personal choice, I can't do 60 hertz, but I'm a nerd, right? Like, that might not matter to you. So for me, the obvious pick is the Galaxy S24. But if you're okay with 60 hertz and the price is identical, get the iPhone. Like, it just depends on what you physically want. I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.